You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I would really like to see this group start out 2-0 on the season. And there's really no reason if how they played this past Sunday, if there is any reality in that whatsoever. And I'm not suggesting that they're that great. They're going to consistently look that good. I think it's more of the assumption after 1 week that Miami is that bad, but give credit where credit is due, as we have for the past couple of days. The Colts were really good. And what did we talk about? If they could take advantage, I mean, hell, the first thing we talked about is whether or not they were going to be able to win week 1 for the first time since 2013. But if they were able to take advantage of those first 2 games being at home, and then on the road in Tennessee, that is an early season surprise. Now, most of my angling so far has been to try to win back a lot of the fan base that has clearly detached itself just a little bit because of the lack of success, the disappointment, the mediocrity, the below mediocrity. So the first couple of days this week what I've talked about, but yeah, it is worthy of I think getting to the fact that they can position themselves as good as you could ask. And what you do is you, with wins now in week 2, rid yourself, tiebreaker-wise, if that ever comes in effect with 2 teams, and Miami doesn't look like it, so don't get me wrong on that. But let's just say a team in Denver that we thought would be a playoff possibility of a squad. A lot of high hopes in Denver. We had a report from Denver yesterday. Nick Kosmider joined the show from The Athletic. The expectations are incredibly high. The first thing Denver's going to have to do to meet those expectations is to navigate their own division. If there is something that is not the same, it is trying to at all equate the AFC South to the AFC West. Now, for example, you look back at the AFC West in week number 1, the lone team that lost was Kansas City. That was it. And they were beaten by the Chargers of the AFC West. Denver won at home in the AFC West. It was not impressive, but they won at home in the AFC West. And maybe the most impressive, especially if you watch the quarterback and Geno Smith throw for 362 yards. And maybe New England's not anything. Maybe they're damn well headed to another disappointing season. I thought more of Mike Vrabel starting that era that I think did most. Maybe that's not going to be as what I thought would be advertised, but that was still a really good win. So they have to navigate their own division with the expectations. I mean, you look at the Colts and the bar is set division-wise much lower with Houston, Tennessee, and Jacksonville. You have yourselves the opportunity, and we have seen in the past this Colts team be unable to take advantage of really nice situations or of being in position of opportunity. And this early this season is absolutely one of those coming up on Sunday. Now, I do look at the secondary, and I do get worried. Bo Nix did not look good whatsoever this past weekend. Yeah, Denver is all about the defense. I will say this. If Daniel Jones and this offense goes out there and navigates, looks good against Denver's defense, that's saying something. Miami was an absolute cluster everywhere on the field on Sunday. The Denver defense against Tennessee was not. The Denver defense is legit, and Colts fans saw that Denver defense up close and personal a year ago, and they live with that disappointment. That was yet another opportunity. That was a December late season opportunity that unfortunately they could not take advantage of, and even more so magnified, unfortunately, it was because of their own doing. And that was the situation with Jonathan Taylor. And we could go back and talk about that, but it's not worthy. What you do have to focus in on is the present. We've given a couple of days on talking about the Colts and feeling good about the Colts and their opening win over Miami. I saw the power rankings. Normally, who gives a crap about that? But you give more of a crap about that when you're trying to fight that upward battle. They're around 24 or 25 to start the season. I think in one, they're up to 18, and others, they're still hovering around 20. Again, it doesn't mean a damn thing other than us having a conversation about it on a daily basis right here. But certainly it's more magnified when you are trying to climb, when you have been written off, when the guy in the afternoon says you're going to be 8-9. What do you think this Colts team is going to do? 8-9? I very well may have to revisit the 8-9 prediction if they come out and go 2-0 on the season with a win on Sunday. Again, you still have to play on the road, and we haven't seen a lot other than a dominant performance by the Colts, and that's what sits there. There's no doubt about that. But it is a tremendous game coming up on Sunday. I called it must-win in week number 1. They got a must-win, and we'll see if they're able to back up that at 4:05. I will say this, for Colts fans, you don't get a lot of these 4:05 starts at home. It is normally one of the best days of any NFL season if you have one of those. It's not quite prime time on a Monday night or a Sunday night, but it's pretty damn close. You don't have to get up as early. You're not at the door as early. You can go to Bullseye, start watching the early afternoon games, do your thing at Bullseye as we'll go give away passes coming up a little bit later on. It's comfortable. It's fun-loving. Now, you would also argue that you're going to get home a little bit later, but then that all hinges on what exactly the Colts end up doing against the Broncos. But I actually, for one, I love the 4 o'clock or later starts here in Indy. I think those are fun as hell. And I come from an angle where I want to see you celebrate at Bullseye, and that's a hell of a way to do it. And most of you, because of your fantasy football ties or because of your betting ties, you want to watch what the hell is going on with every single game. And fortunate for you, Kyle Kinnett and BullseyeEventGroup.com and the Colts VIP Tailgate, they have all that and then some going for you. I'll give away more passes coming up on this show, by the way. Rest of the week, in fact, we'll be giving away passes. So, Charvarius Ward hopefully can clear concussion protocol. Listen, I will say this, and maybe that's because I and you have been dinged so many times with injuries. Isn't part of the equation of feeling like maybe they're making headway and maybe they're able to dig out of a hole? Maybe they're not 8-9, as I have suggested with my predictions. Isn't part of that also good fortune? Having fortune shine upon you. I know numerous times I have made connection with this past Pacer season. Remember how bad the start was? And I had predicted greatness for this team at the beginning of the season. I was really never more excited than the start of this Pacer team. Because what they did, they went out and executed a plan that I blueprinted. And they blueprinted, but it was my plan. Bring back everybody. In a land, in a place where nobody wants anybody brought back because you know how it's gone with the Colts in the past, and you really didn't like the term whatsoever, run it back. I don't blame you. But also what goes along with having a surprisingly good season is a great deal of good fortune. So I'm going to watch Mooney Ward and obviously see whether or not he is going to be active and clears concussion protocol. Because honestly, Colts fans, old school, and I don't mean the old school good days, old school crappy days, old school disappointing days, I think we know how the good fortune turns out in terms of injuries. Normally, put your hands up, here we go again. So I'm going to gauge how quickly, hopefully, Charvarius Ward clears concussion protocol and is active coming up on Sunday. I think I've let this be known. He is my favorite on that squad. He is a hell of a conversation. And I think certainly both he and Bynum, along with the defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo, showed exactly why it was important to have the change. And at least through 1 week, I think everybody felt really good about the direction this defense was going. It was so refreshing. And it would absolutely suck in week number 1 to have that refreshment dashed because one of the guys is going to be down with the concussion symptoms and not clearing concussion protocol. So here's hope. To me, that is a gauge that you can't control. But it is a gauge of good fortune. Whereas you can think maybe things now are going to be different by virtue of this alone. I dig it. I'm going to be watching. We'll follow Mooney Ward and see whether or not he's going to be capable of returning for week number 2 against the Broncos. We know about Jalen Jones, as Shane Steichen said a little bit earlier. Do you got sound, by the way, over there today? What do you got? See if you have any Steichen sound or Shane Steichen sound. Say that 3 times fast. Regarding some of these injury situations, I know Nathaniel said he sent it to you. So Steichen did talk to the media today. And again, as I mentioned, Charvarius Ward concussion protocol. Jalen Jones will miss some time. He has a hamstring situation. And 4 games worth of IR has not been ruled out, evidently. So you're looking at what was certainly a position, a group of strength. All of a sudden, you're kind of wondering. Xavier Howard looked really good in week number 1 against his own team. You know, they go out right before the start of the season. Kai Blackman is in here. Jonathan Edwards, the undrafted player, is in here. So we'll see the direction that they end up going. I know I talked to Stephen Holder back on Monday. I asked about Mike Hilton, and I know that he's more of a slot guy in the secondary, but I kind of asked, I don't know if I ever heard, he came in right before the start of the season for a workout, but you never heard anything about it after that. So are we to assume that it didn't work out with a workout? But we did talk about that with Stephen Holder going all the way back to Monday afternoon show, knowing exactly what could be for Charvarius Ward. And he is, again, in concussion protocol. We're going to follow that through the rest of the week. Sometimes you just need to be on the side of good fortune. The Pacers had so much good fortune until they didn't. I know it looks that way now, but when you were in it, when you were soaking in it, it was pretty damn good, wasn't it? Certainly at that point. So we'll talk about that at 239-1070. We've got a lot of people coming on the show later on today. Kevin Bowen being one in the 4 o'clock hour. I know Jeff Rabjohns will join us. He was supposed to join us yesterday, had a family situation. So Jeff is going to join us today. They are having their intro to the basketball season on Kirkwood Avenue, where we all used to cruise. If you lived in or around Bloomington back in the day, you cruised, and Kirkwood was a part of the cruising track. Now, I will say this. I went to Kirkwood back in July because the kids wanted to have, I think they wanted like the chicken trifecta. They wanted Raising Cane's, which, funny, right? It's almost quicker for me to drive to Bloomington than it is to drive to Avon. Now, they're going to get one in Greenwood, but certainly it's quicker than to drive to Noblesville. So we drove to Raising Cane's, and they have a Dave's Hot Chicken. And they also have, like nobody else has, the Buffalo's location. So we chicken trifected that. And the one thing I noticed is they had Kirkwood closed off, and it was dining. There were a lot of people passed out on the park benches, so I'm assuming you have to try to clear those out. But I don't mind the idea, because I do think that the whole, it used to be Midnight Madness, and now it's Hoosier Hysteria, was Hoosier Hysteria. I don't mind them trying to do something else. Jeff will talk about that. Jeff had the story earlier today. Jeff also will talk about Indiana State and IU coming up on Friday night. He joins us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Jake Arthur, more Colts conversation coming at you as well a little bit later on. And Pat Boylan is going to join us after the Fever get that win over Minnesota last night at home. You know, it's funny. It is not bad to be behind a team where whatever happens, your toes are still tapping. It's like Mike Damone. Whatever happens, they have had a mash unit of situations this year, including their best player, including the most popular player in the WNBA. But they have still been able to stay in it. Pat Boylan and I had that conversation. Plus, I was thinking about this. I don't think Pat Boylan has any time off whatsoever. Because basically, when this season for the Fever is over, then the Pacer season is going to be starting again. It's kind of like me and Greg Rakestraw, 24/7, 365. You have the Shane Steichen stuff? Shane Steichen on the injuries in the secondary from earlier today. James, go ahead.
He will not. He'll be in the protocol. And we'll see how the week goes.
Will Jalen Jones be sidelined for a while?
Yeah, he's going to be out for a while. I don't have a timetable on it, but he'll be out for a while.
That is Jalen Jones. That was Shane Steichen. Very short and not so sweet regarding Jalen Jones, his status, and that of Mooney Ward a little bit earlier today. So, yeah, we are loaded and good to go. 239-1070 is that number. The text line, you can get in there as well, 317-239-1070. You can send me whatever you want to send me. I know somebody had just asked me if I've seen the Charlie Sheen documentary yet on Netflix. I know that it popped today, and I was good. Like, my daughter had well, here's how this goes, right? So I was told by my daughter that she had a basketball practice this morning, so I cranked her up at 4:50. Go, and evidently it was not this morning. That's always fun. I thought, I'm going to go home and watch the Netflix documentary on Charlie Sheen. I know a lot of people don't like him. A lot of people are sick and tired of the soap opera. A lot of people believe him to be entitled. And, okay. But I do want to see it. I want to see when Martin Sheen, his father, gave him the advice not to take the role of what, James? What film from 1984 was Charlie Sheen asked to play the lead role, but turned it down because he had a couple of lines to do in a film that he had to go to Europe, to Budapest to film?
I have no idea.
The original Karate Kid, James.
Really?
Ralph Macchio got the role as Karate Kid. Charlie Sheen says that was going to be his role. But Martin stepped in and said, you know what? Doing what we do, you need to be a man of your word. Which, at least one time, he was a man of his word. Unless his word is, I'm going to go out and get all lit up and just be with as many chicks as humanly possible. That's also his word or words. But I am interested. I always thought Charlie Sheen was fun as hell. Right? I know you're probably saying, well, you know, he should have been in jail and all that. I love Charlie Sheen films. Actually, one of my favorites is that of Lucas, where he played a high school wide receiver. And he was dating Kelly Green. Lucas. Corey Haim was the nerd. Jeremy Piven's in it. Jeremy Piven was about as bald as he was when he played George Costanza's role in the episode of Seinfeld back in, 1986, in that film in high school as a high schooler. But that documentary pops as of today. I will give you a status report, hopefully coming up tomorrow. I'm going to try to watch it later on tonight. I got a little hoop to do. I'm going to go home, and if I remember, and if the Magnum PI episode is not that great, then I may watch it on Netflix and check out the Charlie Sheen documentary. Thank you for asking that. All right, otherwise, 239-1070 is that number, 317-239-1070 if you want to join the text line. Would love to have you. Any of your thoughts there as well. If you want to do some MLB, we can. Now, no, it is going to be a quick minute, and we're going to be right back to the NBA season. Already talking a little hoop. But certainly in the crosshairs with that Week 2 encounter, Broncos and Colts coming up on Sunday. I have bullseye passes for you a little bit later on. Our Week 2 Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Zool Tequila Shots. That is live tomorrow near Geist in Fishers. And we're going to be at the Ale Emporium location. Me and Brent Holverson. We'll see how I did in those. I got to check up exactly how I did. I thought I did better against the spread, but you think I went 11-5 in both? Is that what you're suggesting yesterday?
I think you went either 11-5 or 10-6. It just kind of depends on which one of the ESPN auto-generated usernames you actually were.
Take 11-5, by God, is what I'll take right there. Give me 11-5. I think a lot of us went 11-5. Was anybody really bad in our league? Yeah, everybody was about the same, with the exception of Brian Kelly, who had a 16-0 weekend, which is nice. He's got to make a shirt, right, at the shop. It says 16-0, week 1. Week 1 champion. Like a banner. Make it like a, hey, BK, make it like a Colts banner and put 2025 week 1 16-0 champion.
Actually, when looking at the standard league in terms of people who did every single game, the worst I'm seeing is 8-8. We have a few people who seemingly didn't do every game or forgot to fill out their picks, but the worst record I'm seeing for all 16 games is 8-8.
Smart's real good is what James is saying right there with everybody. Well done. Hey, JMV, I only needed Colston Loveland to get 5 points to win in one of my fantasy leagues. Quote from R. Greb, what a turd effort. I think we need more of that descriptive nature, turd effort. I think he was 2 for 12 in his debut for the Bears. And that's always going to be interesting because we are always going to, and I think everybody's pretty damn happy about Tyler Warren around here. But there's always going to be the, all right, what did Loveland do? What's Warren doing? And clearly Warren did a hell of a lot more in week number 1. We shall take a break, and Pat Boylan's going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. Fever, getting through it. Fighting, clawing, getting to the postseason, winning some games. And again, like Mike Damone once famously said in Fast Times at Ridgemont High back in 1982, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping. That's the situation for the Fever. Quick break, we'll return. Jake Arthur, Kevin Bowen, Jeff Rabjohns, Bullseye Event Center passes. You guys don't want to go anywhere. Some of your comments, that would be just great. The stream, the app, HD Radio, the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Are you going to stay right there? You're going to join us on our return? 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
with JMV.
You just got your asses whipped by a bunch of damn nerds.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
This from the 90s right here. Good Lord, I'm not playing this. I don't like this song.
You don't like this song?
No, I don't.
Oh.
I do like Santana, though. Is that Rob Thomas and Santana?
Yep.
Smooth, right?
Yep.
I've never been a big fan of Smooth. I guess I did it all for the nookie. I did like Fred Durst. Did I ever tell you I had lunch at Weber Grill with Fred Durst once upon a time?
You did not.
I did. Tony Donahue and I, we were, Limp Bizkit played at the Murat Old National Center, and we were the presenting sponsor.
What decade was
JMV. About 10 years ago.
Gotcha.
JMV presents Limp Bizkit. It was outstanding. So if you were going to go to lunch, would it be Fred Durst or what's his name, Wes Borland? The guitarist.
The guitarist, yeah.
Yeah. The guy that has always the freakish face stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, man, Durst was fun as hell. Me and Tony Donahue and Fred Durst in a room at Weber Grill.
Oh, to be
right across the street here.
To be a fly on the wall in that restaurant that day.
It's beautiful. Speaking of which, Fever a winner last night, 83-72 over the Minnesota Lynx. I mean, really nice way. Hopefully they can continue to end the season. And the voice of the Fever, Pat Boylan's kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So somebody had asked me a little bit earlier, so how do you gauge the season accurately? And I think that you live in the moment, Pat, with this team. And Mike Damone, my hero from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, famously said, whatever happens, your toes are still tapping. And I think that's the situation with this Fever team. Whatever happens, it is all good because they have navigated through all the injuries that normally we end up seeing around here because we're in central Indiana, and that's what we're all about. We're the Indiana injuries in general. And you've navigated through that to get to this point, and to your best of your ability, that's where you put yourself. And there's something to be commended about, I think, with this story, with this Fever team. You agree?
Oh, I totally agree. You know, at the beginning of the season, expectations were so high, and rightly so. But if you would have said at the beginning of the season, you're only going to have Caitlin Clark play 13 games. You're going to have 5 players miss significant time due to injury, including a couple of other key players. Another player that you were anticipating playing a big role this year leaves your team within the first quarter of the season. And if you would have said all of that and then finished that sentence by saying, not only are you a playoff team, but a decent chance at the 6th seed, a better record than last year. And let me be very clear on that point. The Fever need Caitlin Clark back, big picture, to hit their ceiling. Without her, they just aren't capable of the heights that they can achieve with her. She's just that important of a player. But to have a better record this year than last year when Clark was available for 40 and injuries weren't really a storyline. You know, it's pretty spectacular to be 24-20. If Golden State loses in their finale, the Fever will be the 6th seed. I mean, it's just a really, really impressive display of resiliency. I can't count how many times I've used that word. Maybe I need to look up a thesaurus and come up with different words for resilient, because I feel like I've just been, you know, kind of hammering that home constantly. But it just has been the perfect word to describe this team, despite all of the tumultuousness that this season has brought. To be in this position that they are, I think, is really impressive. And now, you know, they're going to go into the playoffs winners of 3 straight. They've won all 3 by double figures, so they go in playing really well. And while, you know, not having your best player going into the playoffs is always a massive challenge, if I were Atlanta or Vegas or Phoenix or any of these teams that could potentially play the Fever, you know, I might rather play a different opponent. I might be looking at aligning myself with Golden State or Seattle versus playing Indiana, just due to all the circumstances. And at the end of the day, when you get into the playoffs, you know, overcoming and achieving obstacles is kind of the name of the game. So we'll see here, but considering the circumstances, I don't think you could be anything but thrilled with the results of this 2025 Indiana Fever team.
He is Pat Boylan, voice of the Fever. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. He gets no break this year because as soon as the Fever are done, the Pacers are going to fire back up again, and the Fever started before the Pacers even ended. So there is no rest for Pat Boylan, who joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I am curious about this. How many players have the Fever run through this season?
And just to be very clear, no complaining about that either.
No, I wasn't complaining for you. I mean, listen, you're like the Greg Rakestraw of Pacer Sports and Entertainment, I think. It's like work every day of your life. Yeah.
Well, I do that Saturday morning Pacers show right after Greg, so that's fitting. 18 players have logged minutes for this team, and that might not sound like a huge number if you're an NBA fan and just kind of getting used to the WNBA, but this roster started the season with 11, and one of those players left. So you're kind of down to 10, and you played 18 players this year, including 2 players who were signed, 4 players that were all initially signed due to injury. So Ari McDonald was signed by the Fever because of the injury to Caitlin Clark, and then McDonald herself got hurt. And Chloe Bibby was signed due to a bunch of other injuries that happened, in a string in early August, and then she got hurt. So 2 of those 18 it's like the injury version of the movie Inception. I mean, it's so bizarre. It's been so challenging and frustrating, but yeah, 18, it's a massive, massive number for a team that wasn't involved in trades. I mean, like, for example, Dallas, I think, also had 18 dressed this year and played minutes, but they made numerous trades. And so that's the reason they got to that number. I think Rebecca Lobo had a stat yesterday that no team has ever had 5 season-ending injuries. Not ever, but in the last 3 years, it's not happened in the WNBA. So it's unfortunate, rarefied air for sure, and then to have all that happen and again, to still be 24-20, I think it's really a testament to the poise of, I think, first Stephanie White, who's just kind of built for this kind of thing, even though you never want anybody to be in that position. Her poise is spectacular. That flows downhill to the coaching staff. And then the front office, Kelly Krauskopf and Amber Cox. I mean, every player that comes in here on a hardship deal, it's incredible. It feels like they have been a part of the organization for months, if not years, and that's something that's just really tough to do, is find that chemistry on the fly, mid-season. You look at a player like Ariel Powers, who was heading over to Turkey, hadn't played in the WNBA all year, and then she comes in and she's made an instant impact.
And they had to fly her back from Turkey, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, they brought Chloe Bibby from Australia. So, yeah, all of these circumstances are quite challenging. And of course, a testament to the team and those players coming in as well for making all that work, because that can be a real challenge too. You've got a lot of players on the outside looking in of WNBA rosters that feel like they deserve a chance, and it would be easy in those moments to try to do too much. And I think it's really a testament to the players that they brought in. They bought in to what their role needs to be here on this team. It feels like every single player that's been brought in at some point has made a significant difference this year.
So Pat Boylan's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So Kelsey Mitchell should be ranking among those individuals year-wise in the WNBA. Where, in your estimation? Because you have seen it all, everything she has done. It has been, from an individual angle, as impressive as anybody. Where does she rank this season as far as the type of year that she had, Pat?
Yeah, I think top 5, no question. I would be really surprised. It's something I've said a couple of times on the broadcast, our broadcast, and then Ryan Rucco, I was glad to hear him and Rebecca Lobo kind of share that same sentiment. They made the comments last night that all 3 of us, I guess, would be shocked at this point if Kelsey Mitchell was not first team all WNBA. And those are, the top 5 spots. The MVP is probably going to go the direction of either Nafisa Collier or Asia Wilson. Alyssa Thomas has had a fantastic year. I think those 3 are kind of locks for all WNBA first team. And then, I think Kelsey Mitchell is as well. I think she fits in right there. I think there's a pretty good chance that when those awards ballots come back, that she finishes 4th in the MVP voting. and is on the WNBA All-First team. And if she were able to do that, it would actually be back-to-back years that a Fever guard has finished fourth and on the first team, because that's exactly what Caitlin Clark accomplished last year. And so you've got a couple of players who should be All-First team WNBA players back-to-back years. Makes it more enticing what they could do together on the floor, which, of course, we saw some of that last year, a lot of it. But in Caitlin Clark's first year, as she continues to grow and elevate, this backcourt has the potential, to be, I think, historic if they can get time on the floor together and both are healthy. And I think Kelsey is an unquestioned first-team all-WNBA player, and if you're in the top 5, if that's how you define MVP conversation, then I would also agree that she's in the MVP talk.
Hey, Pat, give me a breakdown of this case of what you feel about the Fever being able to make it out of, when we finally find the concrete circumstances, being able to make it out of round number 1.
Well, the good news here is if you are the underdog in round 1, and again, I make these comparisons to the NBA because I know we have a lot of people that have been following the NBA and the Pacers listening for a long time that maybe are somewhat new to the WNBA, and the format has changed, which has also benefit teams in the Fever spot. In the first round, it's not best of 7. You don't have to win 4 games. First round is best of 3. It's first to 2. It's quick. It takes a week. It's a lot more like, in my opinion, the first round of the NCAA tournament than, say, a 7-game series in the NBA. You only have to win a couple of times. And last year and in previous years, and fans might remember this, the Fever were the 6th seed last year. Connecticut was the 3 seed. But the way they had it set up, and this was to save on travel, which I can understand, but it was a nightmare type scenario in my opinion, which is the Fever had to play the first 2 games of the series in Connecticut, and then and only then did they get a home playoff game if they won one of those 2 games. That's the only scenario where they were going to get to a home playoff game. And then, oddly, the do-or-die game 3 was going to be in Indianapolis, which would be wonky too. They fixed that, so it's 1-1-1 this year. So the Fever will be the 6th or the 7th. They'll very likely play Atlanta or Vegas, and they'll likely go to Vegas or Atlanta for game number 1. Then the series will shift back to Indianapolis for game 2, and then if it's not 2-0, it'll go, to the other team for game 3. But you don't have to win 4. You have to win just 2, which makes an upset much more likely. And you don't have to do, the somewhat ridiculous scenario of playing those first 2 games on the road and never even getting a guaranteed home game. Now you have a guaranteed home game coming to Gainbridge Fieldhouse. We know the Fever will have a home playoff game, which we didn't last year. So the way this team is playing, they will be the underdog, by default and by definition. But I think if you look at the playoff bracket once it comes out and once it gets all settled, I would think you would circle whoever Indiana's playing in the first round as kind of one of those upset alert type picks.
It's Pat Boylan, the voice of the Fever on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So when do you officially start your Pacers duties, Pat?
That'll start for the first preseason game on the 7th, at least from game coverage. But, it's amazing because I believe training camp starts something like September 28th.
When is their golf outing's probably coming up soon, right?
I believe that's correct. I have that in my email somewhere. I don't have it off the top of my head.
We used to go out there. Hell, I don't know if we go out there anymore or not. I know I haven't been out in a while.
Yeah, I remember that. I rember doing some interviews there with some other different hosts that at times have worked for the station. But but no, I do think it's coming up. It didn't work on my calendar. Unfortunately, I'm out of town, I think, for it. I remember not being able to make it. But it is coming up, I think, very soon. It is such a mind warp, this Pacers offseason. I don't know about anybody else, but like when you play on June 22nd, the next season comes up so quickly. In my head, it feels like you're maybe 2.5 months away from the season starting, and no, really, the preseason here is less than a month. So it's a challenge because it's a quick turnaround, but it's a good reason to have a quick turnaround. And, the off season is essentially cut in half because if you think about years where you've lost you haven't made the playoffs, I should say. Your season ended in mid-April. Then you take that into late June. That's a very different circumstance as it relates to the off season. So yeah, I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that phenomenon, but I'm struggling in a good way.
No, it is a good thing. And here's hoping that that everybody hangs on, considering what this season, what is predicted about this upcoming season. What I believe is much different than what is being predicted, but still, it is going to be tough to follow that up. I mean, it's like if your band's following up Metallica or something like that in a show. That one's going to be tough to follow up. What they accomplished, what they did this past season, and especially, Pat, in the fashion in which they did it too. It was just thrill after thrill after thrill. Just incredible stuff.
Gosh, it was. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just kind of hearing you describe all of it. It was such a magical run, and in some ways, it's in just about every way you could define it. It was the most successful season in Pacers NBA franchise history, but at the same time, to get so tantalizingly close, and then have what happened to Tyrese Halliburton happen, and then have that affect all of next year. That's still a tough pill to swallow. And I think you look at the season maybe a little bit like the Fever season that just completed the regular season, and of course the Fever didn't know going in what was going to be the circumstance, and they did get Clark for 13 games, which is better than Halliburton for 0. But I think you look at it kind of similarly, which is you had a bunch of injuries, you were missing your best player for most of the year, but you were able to develop other players. Kelsey Mitchell took a huge step forward. Aaliyah Boston, All-Star. This was Lexi Hull's best season. You were able to develop. You were able to still have success. You were able to make the playoffs. And I think if we're talking about Pacers in April and, guys like Andrew Nemhard and Benedict Mathurin and Aaron Nesmith down the line, if you feel like there has been development there and the team is still competitive and, pushing, for a playoff spot, then I think you would view that equally as a success. And I think big picture, to me, the hope is, while this next year, I don't want to put a ceiling on anything because who would have predicted last year, but while this season may not end with a championship, hopefully you can look back in a few years and say, okay, but the development that you saw from the 25-26 Pacers maybe sets up the 28-29 Pacers, for example. So that's my goal, and that would be my hope for the Pacers season coming up, is to see, frankly, a lot of what we just saw from the 2025 Indiana Fever.
Pat, I appreciate you as always, man. We'll stay in touch.
Hey, Santana Smooth, that was kind of the soundtrack growing up for me. My dad was a huge Santana fan, so I heard that coming on, and it just got me in the right mood. You don't have to be a fan of Rob Thomas for that song individually, but that was kind of the soundtrack to my childhood in a way.
Respect to Pat Boylan right there, musically speaking. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, John.
Pat Boylan on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Quick break, we'll come back. Kevin Bowen, top of the hour. Jake Arthur still to come. Jeff Rabjohn's on the show, and Bullseye Pass is not too far away. Sit tight.
JMV.
I don't understand a word you just said.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
The spreadability is back. Windschuler spreadability. Original, sharp cheddar, bacon and cheddar, and jalapeno pepper. Where you buy your groceries in your favorite grocer's refrigerator, make sure you tell us where you find it, too. I'd mentioned over the weekend I found a bunch of tubs in the location of the Gordon's Food Service down in Greenwood. But Windschuler's, the spreadability is important. They took a hiatus a year ago. They are back with us. Make sure you are with Windschuler's cheeses. The spreadability is back for the football season in 2025. And again, at JMV 1070, if you see it, make sure you send a picture and a locale so I can send everybody there to get it. Windschuler spreadability. Afternoon baseball, top of 5, Rangers 3, Brewers 2. Athletics 1, Red Sox nothing, top of 2. I guess if you're a Reds fan, you're kind of watching what the Giants do, certainly watching what the Mets do. Diamondbacks 1, Giants nothing, as they're through 1 out in San Francisco. Reds beat the Padres last night. Andrew Abbott gets the ball for the Reds tonight. Very disappointing second half for the MLB All-Star. Reds and Padres 8:40 tonight. Cubs and Braves 7:15. Cardinals and Mariners 9:40. We shall keep you updated. Also, the latest regarding the Colts in that secondary. Charvarius Ward, concussion protocol. Jalen Jones will miss some time. Kevin Bowen was on West 56. He has that and more. He joins us coming up next. Also, bullseye passes we'll give away in the 4 o'clock hour. Sit tight, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
It takes him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Ale Emporium Fishers tomorrow. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. We have Broncos Colts tickets to give away at Coach's Tavern downtown. Bud Light Blue Friday. So Thursday and Friday with us, absolute blast. Week 2 picks. Commanders, Packers, Thursday night football. Brent and I, Hermanaki Wings, and if we're able, we'll ask for the Tadanaki Wings. The Tadanakis go even spicier, but you can't always get the Tadanaki. You're very fortunate if you're able to ask for the Tadanaki. Ale Emporium with the Hermanakis, Brent Halverson, and our Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. That is coming up tomorrow. The Ale Emporium in Fishers, which is basically the Geist area up there. I cannot wait to see everybody. And then Broncos Colts tickets coming up for Sunday. That is a Friday Coach's Tavern Bud Light Blue Friday experience for you. All that and then some. Jeff Rabjohn's in less than 30. IU Indiana State coming up on Friday night. And a new wrinkle in Hoosier hysteria for the Hoops. We'll talk to Jeff about that, who had that story a little bit earlier today. And Jake Arthur after 5, but on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right now from the morning show, along with James Boyd and Jeff Rickard. Kevin Bowen is with us. So let me get this straight. The Colts, an NFL best, plus 25 point differential in week 1. And the playoff chances after a week 1 win, which I think even magnifies my thought at it being a must-win, from 34% to 60%. Now, we all know how to view that. But that still, at the very least, Kev, is a hell of a day.
Hell of a day, to say the least. We talked about it last Wednesday, John. I think I said to you, it's one of the, probably outside of Houston, one of the 3 or 4 biggest games, period, on the whole schedule. So, yeah, I think it has that weight. I think Sunday carries very similar weight. Honestly, when you think about, what the AFC West could look like, I don't see Denver winning the division. Maybe it's Kansas City again. Maybe it's the Chargers. But that division, everybody was 1-0 besides Kansas City, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, just huge, and much needed. And obviously, beyond 1-0, they were, thoroughly impressive.
Well, they were. I was trying to think of a category or a player that did not have an impression that was positive on that game. I mean, it was everybody, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, good luck. I do a hits and misses piece, each week after a game because, the old it's never all bad, it's never all good. Right. I'm trying to think, man, what the hell's the bad? If you really want to nitpick, I mean, they allowed, I think, 6.5 yards per carry, but, so, yeah, I mean, I guess that maybe. But outside of that, it was flawless. And individually, too, to your point, usually even during a game, whatever, some guys got 2 drops or, noticeably on defense, there's a mistake here or there, and there's none of that. I mean, Spencer Schrader kicked it great. I guess you could maybe say kickoff coverage, but I thought that got better as the game moved along. I mean, it's as flawless of a game as I can remember. I've gone back to that Buffalo game when Taylor had the 5 touchdowns there in 21. They shut out Houston, I want to say, a couple weeks after that, and that down in Houston, and that might be the other time. There's been whatever. You've had good offensive days, great offensive days. You've had great defensive days. But to put both of that together, obviously super rare for this team.
Hey, Kev, they get the Broncos coming up on Sunday, and that was another one of those gauges we talked about in terms of whether or not we felt early on the Colts could be a postseason contender because Miami was supposed to be a like team, and as it turned out, they're far off of that right now. The Broncos did not specifically look good on the offensive side, but defensively they were as advertised, and especially considering – I think the Titans had the football operating in the Broncos territory, 5 different times and came away with 12 points. So I think that goes to show you just how difficult, as if you don't remember it back in December a year ago, but how difficult that Broncos defense can be.
Yeah, I think Tennessee averaged like 2.5 yards per play, which,
I think speaks for itself for everybody out there, but that's just an incredibly small number. So yeah, I mean, they're really good up front, and I think they're really, really good in the back end too. They got great corner depth. They added one of the safeties from San Francisco, who I know a lot of people speak highly of, Hufanga. I think I'm pronouncing that last name right. He made a couple plays. So, yeah, they got after Cam Ward, 6 different guys with a sack. And, yeah, I mean, to your point, the Colts, obviously saw them last season. And in that front, again, maybe it's not the most household names. I think Nick Bonito has gotten to the point where, certainly his contract that he just signed speaks to it. But, I think for the most part, people know how big of a name he is. But just to put like 2.5 yards into perspective, I want to say Miami was like 4.5 this Sunday. I mean, you would say the Colts were great, defensively, and they still were at 4.5, which again is a great number. But Denver took it to another level and only allowing 2.5 yards per carry or per play, period, passing or run play. So yeah, it's certainly one of the best defenses that the Colts will probably face all year long.
Kevin Bowens on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I really find no reason to review what took place a year ago because, the horror situation that was Jonathan Taylor dropping the football before he crosses the goal line. That was the difference in the game. And maybe even more horrific watching Nick Bonito run it the other direction after an ill-fated attempt at a play that was ridiculous. I mean, they were 2 individual plays that probably were the lowest points of the season, play-wise, I thought, for the Colts last year, both in one game, right?
Yeah, and certainly the Taylor play probably single-handedly changed the game, maybe changed the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And that was just so un-Taylor-like. I mean, dude scored 1 million touchdowns. It's not like that's, whatever, A.D. Mitchell running the end zone for the first time, or Anthony Gould, somebody that hasn't been there before, some defensive player maybe. So that play just went 20-7, and then all of a sudden it started to snowball. And then, I kind of said it earlier this morning. Like, I think Shane Steichen's a pretty impressive offensive mind, and frankly, just the idiotic nature to think that like that play call was necessary at that moment. To me, it's just always so stunning. Of like, wow, with the season on the line, you use your 2 most inconsistent players, Richardson and Mitchell, and you ask A.D. Mitchell to throw the football. I mean, last year he could barely catch the football. Now you're asking him to throw it. I guess you're asking him to do both. First catch it and then throw it back to Richardson. I can still see him spinning the football to find the spiral or to find the laces right now. So, that was quite the game. And Shane Steichen wanted no part in reminiscing it today, which I get. And obviously Lou Anarumo is here right now, and that's certainly a big change. And I thought the Colts, shockingly, did a great job on Bo Nix last year in that matchup. He threw, I think it was 3 picks and looked very, very pedestrian. So, again, it'll be a new defense. He did see Anarumo last year, Nix. They did face off later, actually, in the year, kind of another wild game, Denver in Cincinnati. But certainly this defense should be, flying high after what they put out there in week 1.
Yeah, a major concern in that secondary, though, the news that Jalen Jones will miss some time, which I think a lot of people probably expected, but the concussion protocol for Charvarius Ward is certainly troublesome, and you may find this group having to dig deep in that secondary coming up this weekend. Here's, Kev, this is my gauge. Like, we saw a lot of things for the first time on Sunday that was feel good, that was refreshing. And I think this is also going to be a point this week as well. It will be refreshing not to have to deal with just an absolute avalanche of injuries, as we do normally around here, being the Indiana injuries. That should be our mascot and logo right there, the Indiana injuries in any of these sports here. But I think good fortune plays along with good play. And that'll be an early season gauge, for example, to see if Mooney Ward ends up clearing concussion protocol and is good to go on Sunday, because clearly he was really good, I thought, in week number 1.
Yeah, and, one thing to point out about Ward, and it's always really difficult, I think, with concussions to be like, oh, wow, where are they at? can they progress through the week? We've seen it. I mean, I remember a time where Michael Pittman Jr. progressed all the way, and then I think he got to the team playing to go to Atlanta or something, and all of a sudden he had a setback, and he didn't play in that game all the way, like on a Saturday, ruled out. So Ward didn't practice today, and I would say usually, when you have concussion guys that don't practice on a Wednesday, I mean, I would guess probably if you added them all up, like 90-some% of the time, those guys don't play. For what it's worth, Ward was at practice. Sometimes you see with the concussion symptom guys, particularly on a day like today, hot and sunny, they don't want them anywhere near, being outside, being exposed to that much light, et cetera, et cetera. So at least, the door's kind of cracked for him technically, he would have enough time if he practiced tomorrow in a non-contact jersey, Friday full, he could play on Sunday. So that, bears a little bit more watching. And yeah, I mean, your corner depth on paper very well could get tested. But I don't look at Denver and think they're the best team to necessarily test you in that area. I have not been overly impressed with Bo Nix. I was talking to someone today from the Colts, and they're like, Bo Nix in week 1 looked like Auburn Bo Nix, and that was rough. And that wideout group I don't think is super deep. Cortland Sutton I do think is a good number 1 wideout, but you would hope he wouldn't go off on you. And he kind of had a quiet game against the Colts last year. So, if this was Miami week 1, which I know sounds critical to say, or I know it sounds kind of wild to say afterwards, like I think you'd be a little bit more in fear, or trying maybe the Rams in a couple weeks with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. But given how Denver's made up, I do think this is a week where you can kind of withstand potentially some losses at corner.
Yeah, well, and hopefully so. How much of what you witnessed on Sunday do you believe to be legit, or maybe even more emphasized because Miami was just so dreadful? And I mean, in every single category, Miami was awful.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Warren presence is definitely legit. I mean, he might not have 7 for 76 every game, but think about that. He had that, and you could have called defensive pass interference on him in the end zone that either is a huge penalty or could have been a touchdown. And so I think that's going to be as close to a constant as you can have for a rookie tight end. I fully expect that to be pretty normal. Defensively, I think at the bare minimum, there will be an attempt each week to, again, try to cause stress on the opposing team. And, if you look at the Latu interception, I mean, that's a play, a 3rd and 3, where Lou Anarumo says, hey, Tua's not going to scramble. Let's drop both defensive ends. Let's stress kind of coverage, throw a different look at him, and hopefully he tries to force one. And that's exactly what he does. Now, Bo Nix, maybe he can make more of a play with his legs. So maybe it's a little different for him, or, Cam Ward next week. But again, I think there at least is the attempt of what you showed on film in week 1, while impressive, it's not like that's the exact same game plan you're walking into week 2 with. And then the big question comes down to quarterback. I would say my belief at quarterback isn't as much in Daniel Jones himself, like stringing together all of these, barely, I mean, he had probably 1 ball that could have been picked off, and that was it. And, created chunk plays and things like that. I think a lot of the offensive belief, you could point to, like, what if this offensive line gets back to 2018 or 2020? Because that unit from a pass protection standpoint was outstanding in week 1. And if you are creating those types of pockets for an NFL quarterback, they're going to pick you apart, and especially with Miami secondary. And that's exactly what Jones did. So, again, that aspect, maybe it's not me individually betting on Jones. It's more of, wait, if the O-line, which there is some reason, I think, to have belief there, if that's for real, then maybe you could have something.
It's Kevin Bowen on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline, the morning show, along with James Boyd, Jeff Rickard. Kev, together 7 until 10 a.m., Monday through Friday, right here on The Fan. So anything, give me a surprise, the biggest surprise, because it'd been so long since we'd seen anything defensively. I don't want to say surprise, but it was refreshing because we'd been through Gus Bradley and Matt Eberflus. But anything along the lines of surprisingly well as it went on Sunday for you? Any particular player, any particular category, Kev, that stands out for you?
Well, I would say, given the opponent, just how good the defense looks. I mean, and, maybe there comes a time where Miami just looks, whatever, beyond dysfunctional, but, they didn't even have a glimmer of it. There wasn't even one, I don't even count that late touchdown drive. There wasn't 1 ounce of hope at all. I mean, I guess they got across midfield a couple of times, but, it's not like they had drives stall out inside the 10-yard line or they missed short field goals. I mean, they didn't even really sniff legit scoring range there. And that's with, Tua healthy and A-Chain healthy and, Waddle and Hill. I mean, that to me, I think just how dominant the defense was probably is the most surprising aspect. I mean, you and I talked about this leading into the game. What a golden opportunity it was for Daniel Jones, given Miami's defensive makeup, especially in the secondary. Now, still, I don't want to discredit Jones. It's not like he went out there and played, Florida Atlantic or somebody or, Florida A&M. No, I mean, he went out there and played, obviously, an NFL defense that has, notable guys in their front seven and played well. But, again, given the opposition, that's not Denver's defense. So that probably was extra surprising. I mean, Warren, to be honest with you, none of it was really a surprise. I think, again, we've talked about it endlessly. He's going to catch a ton of balls. All the fantasy drafts I was in, I'd try to get Warren as early as possible because I just felt like he'd be such a focal point of the offense and will be a big red zone weapon for you. So, yeah, I would say overall just the fact that the defense played that well, really through three quarters. I mean, Miami hardly did anything. And for the final score to be a 25-point margin, and it's not like they muffed 2 punts or you had a kick return for a touchdown. Sometimes you can create some fluky stuff, a block punt, here or there. You really didn't have any of the fluky stuff that contributed to the biggest margin you've had in 55 games.
Man, Cam Bynum's a fun dude. When you can play at a high level and be a fun dude, you are, to me, incredibly valuable, Kev.
Fan favorite. Yeah, he will quickly become a fan favorite. I don't know if you've tried to get him on. We did try to get him on. It doesn't sound like maybe he's the most morning person, so you might have a little better luck.
He was on with me when he first signed, and he was great.
Yeah. Well, I remember the Mooney Ward combo.
Oh,
I love that combo that you had with Mooney too.
He's my favorite. You say anything and he'll talk it up too. And I mean, he comes from the grassroots of it, which I think it makes it even more special to watch him play. But man, Bynum, I love the combination of playing at a high level and also being fun as hell. He is definitely that.
Yeah, and I think there's a level too of, when you play that position, you have to be a strong communicator. And I think guys naturally are going to gravitate towards you back there because you are getting guys lined up and, you're the last line of defense. And I know in Minnesota they thought very highly of him in the Brian Flores defense. His story is remarkable. I mean, he trains in the Philippines in the offseason. He's half Filipino for those that don't know, and he's been a huge part in helping the Filipino Olympic organization kind of get a flag football team ready for the Olympics here in a couple of years. And so his whole story and how he is wired, I think is also just an easy one to root for. And yeah, he's got an infectious personality, and I have a feeling there will be a lot more of the celebrations and probably some team involvement going forward. And you can tell he's a very instinctual player. I mean, he got involved on a couple other plays as well. So yes, I think he is definitely going to be a fan favorite. We saw his playmaking at training camp, and for that unit not only to pick by Bynum, sack by Cross, sack by Kenny Moore, for the secondary not to allow anything over their head too. I mean, it's not like Miami really attempted anything down the field, let alone hit on one of those big plays. Given their speed, given Tua, that to me also was a big positive.
So IU on Friday night, 48.5-point favorites over my Sycamores of Indiana State. At least the check will clear.
How much are the Fighting Kurt Mallory's getting for that game? Do we know?
Well, they 48.5-point favorites are the Hoosiers.
Oh, I meant I meant money. How much?
Oh, you know what?
How
I'm
much is
sorry,
going in the old
money-wise.
budget?
I don't know how much they're getting. I haven't asked, but it is more than my donation. I can tell you that.
Well, I know Signetti loves to run it up, but come on, Sycamores. We got to cover that.
48
and I know you
and a half. Yee.
Aren't they 2-0? I have no idea who they played, but
I know they won in week. I know they won in week number 1. I do know that. Yeah, that would have to be because I think who'd they play in? How they play in week? Yeah, they're 2-0. I was trying to think who they played. Eastern Illinois, McKendree and
go.
Eastern Illinois, and they have Kev won handily in both of those games.
This. Oh, 48.5 will be the easiest cover. It'll be like Tyler Warren's 3.5 catches.
Well, hey, listen, when you play the University of Sean Payton, Tony Romo, and Mike Shanahan, what the hell, right? And Jimmy Garoppolo.
Take that, Panthers.
Yeah.
Very impressive there. I will say, and I know you have talked about this, and I'm sure as hell know Bob Lovell will make it very well known on Friday when he joins you. But I just think it's such – I mean, you got Bloomington South, Bloomington North Friday night.
Yeah.
And how many people would love to be at both, work both, whatever, it's a huge part of every Friday night for them, and instead they've got to go to old Indiana State at a 6:30 kickoff at Memorial. It just, and again, I know there's a lot of money that's probably coming in back channel wise, and it's great for the university, this and that. I just think that stinks. I think taking away a multi-thousand person crowd at the high school game for that, and vice versa. Obviously, there are people that, parents of kids on the team. There's probably some IU coaches that have, kids on the team. And
Don Fisher's son, Scott, is the head coach of the 3-0 Edgewood Mustangs, and they play the River Rats of Owen Valley.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, that to me, I just hate. I feel like these college coaches are already working insane hours enough. Can you give them a Friday night where they can go recruit, watch, and again, it's more than that. It's more of, people working both games and all of that. And it's not like you're putting Indiana State on Fox or what. I mean, I assume it's just Big Ten Network. So,
Kev,
that's always bothered me.
ISU's getting $475,000 for this game. Why are they not getting $500,000? Why is it $475,000?
Maybe IU's a little nervous. Yeah.
Where's that extra $25 million going here?
Well, and my question would be, hasn't IU bought out all their other games?
Because they're driving, State? Not flying is why, right? They're driving down 46.
Indiana State can play the leverage game. There's not enough FCS opponents out there. IU's turned down everyone else.
You think Kurt Mallory's guys are all riding in different cars? The players are just driving their cars. Like we did in high school and just drive the cars.
All right,
there.
So can we park on fee? Are there enough visitor spots in the villas? Can we park in the villas?
Yeah, go ahead and let us in. We're just going to go ahead and drive to the game. So, yeah.
Is that Steak and Shake off College still open? Could you park there and walk across?
I believe that it is. It's never been the same, Kev, since it used to be Big Wheel back in the day. Never been the same.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. You and Jeff and James tomorrow morning, 7 until 10 a.m. You guys have an absolute blast, and know that I'll be at the Ale Emporium 3 until 6 coming up tomorrow night. Be jealous as hell, okay?
I'm very jealous of that. Great wings, great pizza, great atmosphere up there.
Oh, boy. And I will catch you at noon, I guess, coming up on Sunday, right? At the Bullseye Event Center. Yeah.
I
noon.
forgot. Okay. So noon on Sundays when
got it.
everything will begin for you?
You got it, buddy. We'll do it.
Cool. All right, sounds good, John.
You got it. Kevin Bowen, morning show, fan morning show. James Boyd and Jeff Rickard, weekday morning, 7 until 10 a.m. So $475,000. I think I could have negotiated the extra $25K right there and made it an even $500,000. $500K. No, I'm not donating $25K to make it an even $500,000. 48. What's more surprising, the number they're getting paid or the number that IU is a favorite in that game? 48.5. James, would you take IU and lay the 48.5?
Yeah.
You son of a gun, you. Quick one, I'll come back. We got Jeff Rabjohns, speaking of which, coming up at the bottom of the hour. Not Jeff Rabjohns joined us yesterday. The real Jeff Rabjohns joins us coming up from Pigs next. There's going to be a new wrinkle to Hoosier hysteria. That and Jake Arthur talks Colts coming up at the top of the hour. We'll follow Mooney Ward in concussion protocol for the rest of the week for sure. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
How about some bullseye passes right now? Who wants to go on Sunday? You know you have a late afternoon game at home for the Colts. Broncos and the Colts at 4:05. Is this album Out of Time, REM? Do you know? Out of Time?
I believe it is.
Yeah, that's prior to Automatic for the People or prior to Monster. REM had some big albums in the 1990s. Nothing but the 90s of the JMV Takeover, B105.7, coming up on Saturday night. Bullseye passes right now, James. Number 9 at 239-1070. All you can eat, all you can drink. DJ Skids entertains, and maybe the most important aspect coming up this Sunday is that you will be able to attend as the doors open at the Bullseye Event Center at 1 o'clock and watch the early afternoon games before you walk across Capitol and head to the game between the Broncos and the Colts. Bullseye Event Center passes, I'm telling you, you guys love these. As soon as I mention Bullseye, there go the callers. Number 9 at 239-1070. You can go. Thank you very much. All right, so I have somebody saying now that they read last week that my Sycamores were being paid $550K for their trip down 46 to Bloomington. We're going to solidify this informationally speaking right now on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from Peegs.com. Jeff Rabjohns joins us. I should say this. Jeff didn't make it yesterday, but we did ask and received a call from not Jeff Rabjohns on your behalf. I hope that's okay, Jeff.
I like it.
Not Jeff Rabjohns did make an appearance on the show yesterday. So what was the number that Indiana State got paid to do that game Friday night?
I'll have to double check, but I believe 550 is what I was told early on. I have not double checked that, but I'll try to do that.
550
sounds about right for FCS.
550. Somebody had told me 475 to start, and now 550. That I guess makes probably a little bit more sense. What does that do other than paying Indiana State for IU and get them a win? What does that do altogether? Friday night, I mean, there's a lot going on that normally is not entailing college football. What are some of the positives, I guess, other than just coming away with a win in general with that game, Jeff?
Sure. I mean, obviously the date is determined by TV, so TV makes those decisions. When you sell your inventory, which is kind of how they talk about it, in your business, TV, radio.
Yeah.
It's you sold it. TV now has control. But from the Indiana standpoint, I think, you've seen a lot of SEC teams do this over the years, play an FCS team at some point during the season. And, it helps you solidify your win total, helps you maximize your win total. And if you're at the stage of building a program that Indiana is, you're in year 2, really. You want to become a regular postseason team. Yeah, you want to go to the playoffs. That's the ideal. But the biggest thing is become a regular postseason team. Playoffs, great. Bowl games, very good. That's really how you build a fan base. And we saw really, Kansas State did, they put the template out several decades ago. They were bad. Snyder comes in and says, okay, we're going to buy, I think at the time they could buy 4 games. So they bought 4. And at first people were like, oh, they're just going to crush these people. What's it matter? What happened? They got to where they won 6-7 games. Then they won 7-8. Then they won 8-9. Then all of a sudden, it took off. Now with Indiana, obviously they got off the mat immediately, went to the playoffs, 10-win season in year 1 under Cristianetti. But I think when people ask, why do you schedule games like this? The reason is you want to do everything you can from a scheduling standpoint to ensure that you become a regular postseason team. And over time, you're consistently in the postseason and you build a fan base.
It's Jeff Rabjohns of Peegs.com on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We won't spend much time on football on Friday night, but I do want to move to basketball because you had the story, I believe you were first with that story, of a new wrinkle as it seems to Hoosier hysteria coming this season, correct?
Well, yeah, this is actually like a different event. I wouldn't call this a new wrinkle to Hoosier hysteria.
Well, I guess it is a new wrinkle altogether, I guess, at the start of the season. Maybe I should better phrase.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a new event. Hoosier Hoops on Kirkwood. They're going to do it outside. They're on East Kirkwood, right near upstairs, and Nick's and in the sample gates. And I think it's a really cool idea. It's going to be outside Thursday, October 2nd, 8 to 10 p.m. Basketball under the lights. It's basically like a big block party with basketball being a part of it. And one of the reasons to do it is it's cool. Louisville's, Tennessee, I believe, still does it. I know they've done it recently. Very popular at those locations. Some other people might have done it, but I know those are two that do it. And also, it just kind of helps you re-energize your students. And that's something I think that's a good idea for Indiana. You know, get the students just a little more energized about basketball. You know, and I think that's the primary reason for that, for this specific event. Now, I will say this. I don't think this is going to be the only preseason event. Okay, I think this is the first one that is, you know, now known. I think there's going to be others, and my prediction, just my prediction, I think they're going to have some kind of an open scrimmage at Assembly Hall at some point that will be a little more like the old Hoosier Hysteria or the old Midnight Madness. You know, you and I are old enough. We remember when they just opened doors and you watched a practice or a scrimmage.
I loved Midnight Madness back in the day, Jeff. Loved it.
You and I are both old enough to have gone to actual Midnight Madness events that started at 12:01 a.m.
Yep.
And they were cool. They were really cool. So my prediction is there will be something of that vibe, of that vein that happens at Assembly Hall at some point this fall.
Jeff Rabjohns of Peaks.com's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You have seen and have a great deal of insight into not so much the expectation in season number one in Bloomington with Darren DeVries and the IU basketball program, but what will Hoosier fans, what type of team will they see? And is there a logical comparison to be made to anybody out there that may strike an interest with IU fans that clearly haven't seen much other than the occasional highlight over the summer here?
Sure, a great question. I think what they're going to see is a very different brand of basketball. You're going to see players moving. You're going to see players screening. You're going to see ghost screens. You're going to see some of the European actions or the actions that kind of became popular in Europe that have really started to come over to the States. You're going to see the ball moving. You're going to see three-point shooting. You know, down there in the Bahamas, I believe it was, they took 212 shots in 3 games, somewhere around there. I don't have it right in front of me. 90 some of them were threes. So you're going to have people who actually play. You're going to see a team play much more modern brand of basketball. They're going to move the ball. They're going to move players. They're going to hunt threes. There's not going to be a lot of long twos, which are the worst shots in basketball. There are going to be drives to the paint, guys cutting to the paint, that kind of thing. But you're going to see a lot of movement. And I think it's just going to be a much better brand of basketball. Even from some of the clips that I put up on social media when I was down there in Puerto Rico, people were like, oh, my gosh. Like, they're actually moving the ball. The players are moving. They're sharing the ball. Like, yeah, this is how they want to play. So I think the biggest thing that people are going to see is a different brand of basketball, a much more modern brand of basketball.
What's the focus defensively, Jeff? Not that I really care because I'm not too big on defense in general, but because I'm asking, what is the focus defensively? I guess maybe even better said, describe the philosophy defensively that this team will have.
Yeah, I think it's to create some ball pressure if you can in the half court. I don't expect to see a whole lot of like full court pressing, trapping, run and jump type stuff, but they're going to try to have ball pressure and try to challenge a lot. Really try to challenge shots, be in position to challenge threes, be in position to challenge drives, and just be really fundamentally sound. It's not about gimmicks or any of that kind of stuff. It's about being really fundamentally sound, being connected, really smart help, and position yourself correctly. Position yourself to challenge things and make things difficult. Because in today's game, there are more skilled offensive players than there ever were before. And more players positionally can make threes. You have teams that have what would have been, you know, a guy 6'8", 6'9", would have been a power forward 15 years ago. Well, he's out there taking threes now. You have some teams that have centers who make threes. So you have to be able to sort of challenge different types of shots. And I think those are some of the things you're going to see IU focus on: ball pressure, proper positioning, proper help, challenge shots, challenge drives, and just try to be really fundamentally sound on defense.
I remember the year before last, I was watching the Missouri Valley Conference Championship game. Drake and Indiana State, and I watched the coach's kid and Enright really put a curl into the Sycamores of their opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament. Now, as it turned out, they ended up going to the NIT, and that was fun as hell, but still, it was the NIT. A lot of what I witnessed then is what is transferable with those two individuals on this team coming up this year, in your estimation?
Yeah, I think especially with Tucker DeVries. I think he's Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson. Lamar's the transfer shooting guard that they got in from Sam Houston. Those are the two most offensively gifted players as we evaluate them walking in the door. So those are the two guys you point to a lot. I think Connor Enright plays. He did start down there in Puerto Rico. They started both point guards, Connor Enright and Tatum Connerway. I'll be very curious to see as the season moves along, the games count. Do you go with one guy and kind of alternate him? I think Tatum Connerway's just got a little more physical ability, but Connor Enright's one of those just heady guys who makes the right play, gets his teammates in the right position, and everything like that. But yeah, what you saw with the Drake team, I think is at least an example of what they're going to aim toward. Probably a little more of West Virginia, because I think you have guys like Lamar Wilkerson, guys like Tatum Connerway, guys who can maybe do a little bit like what Javon Small did for West Virginia last year. So I think maybe West Virginia of last year is a little more direct comparison. But what you referenced, yeah, I think if people saw the game, remember that game, yeah, you saw a lot of things that Darren DeVries likes to do with his offensive players, how he likes to move them, how he likes to hunt shots.
Yeah, it's no doubt about that. Hey, really quickly, I got to run here, but we'll look ahead for IU and Illinois past this Friday. How hot has that ticket been from what you've noticed?
And I think it's becoming really, really popular. Night game, under the lights, NBC. I think it's going to be a full house. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere. Both teams are nationally ranked right now. I think some people look at it and say, gosh, is Illinois really number 9 and Indiana only number 22? We'll see. Some people think they're a lot closer than that. But I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. Two nationally ranked teams playing at Merchants Bank Field, 7:30 under the lights. I think it's a really cool event. And I think the ticket's popular right now. And I think as we get to game week, it's only going to become more popular.
So Jeff Rabjohns of Peaks.com, a little update, and it is never, ever too early to talk a little bit of hoop. Jeff, I appreciate it as usual, man. We'll catch up with you again soon.
Thank you, my friend. You have a great week. We'll talk to you.
Jeff Rabjohns of Peaks.com right there. Jake Arthur, top of the hour. Secondary's got some issues for the Colts going into week number 2. Hopefully those are solidified with Mooney Ward getting past the concussion protocol. Hopefully. We shall see, but we'll talk about that and more with Jake Arthur coming up at the top of the hour. Do not go anywhere. More Bullseye passes to hang out and back-to-back days on the road with me at great places. I'll explain next.
fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
It should be more natural, brother. It should flow out like this. Look, man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now the spreadability is back. Win Schulers for 2025 of the football season. Make sure you grab some today. Make sure you find it. Make sure you look for it in your favorite grocer's refrigerator. Win Schulers spreadability. 4 different tubs of greatness. Make sure you have the spreadability of Win Schulers near you. Party or just some time with you in front of the TV. It is all good. 317-239-1070. That is the text line if you want to chime in like this person has. JMV, your hair looks like, now this is what it says here. I'm going to read it verbatim. Looks like boom went off in front of you. You okay, brother? LOL. So I'm going to go ahead and interpret this as JMV, your hair looks like a bomb went off in front of you. You okay, brother? LOL. Well, there's a story behind the hair looking like a bomb has gone off in front of me. As I've said this before, I am trying to make like Mac tonight. Remember the McDonald's character, the whole half moon? I'm trying to make my face longer, my head longer. So, no, it is just me. If you remember correctly, the ladies who, by the way, I don't know if the ladies are going to make it back out. I know Lindsay will probably be back out at some point. Obviously, a newlywed. But Gina now works at Wish in the afternoon, so I don't know if the Princess of Ice Cream is going to make it out anytime soon. But if you remember the day when they said, you have to do something different with your hair, and this is what I have done. And I will take the boom going off in front of me. The boom did, and that was the reason why. The girls of the show dictated the terms on that. This from Matty Matt. Indiana football needs to win under the lights on NBC against a ranked opponent. To shut up the peanut head Paul Feinbaum. He does kind of look like Mr. Peanut, I would agree. Give him a monocle and a cane and a top hat, and that is Mr. Peanut. It's working, long face. I'll take that. Now, actually, go ahead and go back to the boom in front of my face. I'll take that, too. Hey, who won those bullseye passes? Was that Adam?
It was Adam, yeah.
Shout out. Adam from Whitestown is going to bullseye. Well done, buddy. Well done. JMV, what's your initial reaction from Micah Parsons' Week 1 debut with the Packers? Hey, we got that coming up next. Jake Arthur's going to join us. Colts Week 1 and then preparation for the Broncos, who offensively were not tripping the light fantastic, but defensively they'll lock you up a little bit. And hopefully forgetting the nightmare that was in Denver, if you remember a year ago, like A.D. Mitchell throwing a... Jonathan Tate will wipe the slate clean for the Broncos coming up on Sunday in a return visit. Bullseye passes, too. That opens up the Bullseye Event Center at 1 o'clock on Sunday, too. I've got passes in the 5 o'clock hour. The stream, the app, HD Radio. A shout-out to the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Become a AAA member today. Thank me later. Always having your back on the open road. AAA.com. Become a member today. Also, those great Ruoff deals still going on with AAA. Don't go anywhere. Jake Arthur on the other side. Road shows Thursday and Friday with 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
Stay out of trouble. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. We have bullseye passes to give away. Tomorrow's show, Ale Emporium and Fishers. I hope to see everybody there. These samples will be flowing from Heaven Hill Distillery. Well done out of you, James. Brent Holverson and I, Week 2 selection starts with the Commanders and the Packers coming up tomorrow night. Again, Fisher's Ale tomorrow, you guys. Let's go ahead and stack it up and join us. We'll have a blast. And then Bud Light Blue Friday, we have Broncos Colts tickets at Coach's Tavern. Me, you, and Tommy S. on Friday. Can you dig it? All in preparation for week number 2 with the Broncos and the Colts. By the way, the Colts, last I checked, 2.5-point dogs on Sunday. Does it depend on what we're looking at, I think? At home against Denver. This courtesy of Mike Chappell. They're in position for the first 2-0 start since 2009. They've started 2-0 7 times since 1984. Exclude the Manning years, and they've had one 2-0 start since 1996. If you take out the Manning years, Mike Chappell, by the way, joins us on the show tomorrow. Alec Pierce, Colts wide receiver, on the show tomorrow as well. Ale Emporium and Fishers. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, we had him on certainly most recently. Had a great time with Jake Arthur, Locked On Colts. WTHR.com, I believe. If I'm missing something, Jake, who joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, my apologies. You can add to it right here as you join us after 5. Hello, Jake.
Hey, how's it going?
Am I missing somewhere where you work here? I've got Locked On Colts. I have WTHR.com too. What else am I missing?
All right, yeah. So I'm always moving around a little bit. So
okay.
I'm on WTHR Plus with Don Miranda and Eli Gain quite a bit. And then I just recently moved from the Colts on SI site over to Roundtable Sports with our boy Bob Kravitz.
Gotcha. Roundtable Networks. That's Roundtable Sports, where you can find Jake now, where you can find him certainly at this very moment, is talking about the Colts. At first, I want to lead with this because we're kind of moving on, but we will, I'm sure, look back at this past Sunday and that went over Miami. But the secondary concerns, Jalen Jones going to miss some time, concussion protocol for Charvarius Ward. Going into this weekend, what's your concern level of a secondary that really looked good in week number 1 against Miami?
Yeah, I mean you're certainly concerned anytime your top cornerback in Charvarius Ward is kind of in danger of missing this one. I guess if you're looking for a silver lining, this is not like a high flying offense the Broncos have. I think the Colts still match up reasonably well with them. Cortland Sutton, you're not asking Samuel Womack to guard him this time. If Ward goes out, I imagine it's Xavier Howard there. But I think personnel-wise, the Colts are still in better shape against this one than they were last year. And you've got to think it kind of all starts up front with Lou Anarumo and what he's going to have the defensive line doing, and then the kind of things he's going to try and confuse Bo Nix. Because he did turn Tua Tagovailoa into a really uncharacteristic version of himself. So as much as you would like Ward to be up there and Jalen Jones, even just for a backup option, I'm going to say that Lou Anarumo, it's going to kind of come down to him and how he can kind of throw some curveballs at Peyton and Bo Nix.
Jake Arthur joins us. I thought it was refreshing. And I know it's the start of the season, and who knows if it's a mixture of just, being back and finally playing for real against somebody that's, not normally wearing the jersey of yours that you're wearing. But it looked like, especially the veterans, Jake, on Sunday, they had a level of excitement because they were doing some new things. Especially Kenny Moore, for example, would have been one of those. Did you see that as well?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think those guys have been asked to do just kind of the same things for so long. Even like Gus Bradley's defense was a little different from Matt Eberflus's defense, but they were both very simple. Didn't ask to do a whole lot, but I think guys bought into Lou Anarumo really early on this offseason. I didn't really hear much skepticism about him, and then you see these guys doing things they wouldn't normally do. Like 2 of the sacks you got on Sunday were from defensive backs with Kenny Moore and Nick Cross. And the whole reason Kenny Moore burst onto the scene in the first place early in his career is because he was one of the best pass rushing nickel defenders in the league. And so he's gotten back to that. Nick Cross loves to be used in a multitude of ways as well. You got defensive ends dropping into coverage, Laiatu Latu looking like a ball hawk out there. And I do think these guys, when you put it to them simply and you're not making them overthink, but you're putting them in new spots, if that makes sense, I think it kind of reinvigorates them a little bit. And I think they were kind of looking for any reason to get excited again after the last year or so.
Yeah, I would agree. And you often wonder if the veteran players were much like the fans, because I think in the stands and certainly in the press box, you got that refreshing feeling about what you were watching, because for so long, that's what fans have been asking for. They've been asking for that during the Gus Bradley era, been asking for that during the Matt Eberflus era. And for one game, you finally got it. And I mean, hell, it was almost like it wasn't even true and wasn't happening because it had been so damn long.
Yeah, it felt legit, like exactly how you said it. Like you hope to see them do certain things because you want to see them try something different because it had been so stale for so long. And then when they actually do it and it looks good, then it gives you so much optimism moving forward, because everything we saw them do out there, it looked, again, legitimate. And because Miami, they look like they might be in a bit of trouble. Like the signs, I guess, were kind of there in the offseason that they might be a little bit of a mess. But at the end of the day, you still made Tua look absolutely out of his element. That's a guy that loves to get the ball out quick. You confused him all day. You made Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle irrelevant. Like it looked like they were doing things that legitimately should be effective throughout the season. Because we've all seen these kind of random beatdowns, whether the Colts are doing it or it's like the Giants killing them last year, where it's like, okay, that's probably only going to happen 2 times out of 10. But what this defense looks like, I think it should be pretty challenging most weeks.
It's Jake Arthur's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. How does that translate? Again, we've had one sample size of a game of play in 1 week, but how do you think that defense translates to what you witnessed with the Broncos and their home opening win over Tennessee on Sunday?
Yeah, so I was watching that game again from last year, the 2024 game, and some of the things they did that worked pretty well against Denver's offense. And luckily, it looks like a lot of the stuff that Lou does, where you kind of get exotic with the fronts. You have defensive linemen standing up, or, guys who are normally on the inside coming from the outside, and then just making it look totally unrecognizable. I think that's something that Lou already does. It made a young guy like Bo Nix kind of question himself a little bit. And then just kind of swarming to the ball immediately as well. I am curious how the run game is going to hold up, though. There were a couple gaffes against the Dolphins, and I think Denver's going to try and kind of switch to more of a power run team this year from the looks of it. So I think the run defense was kind of already something we were a little skeptical of, because the personnel they're going to use, you're almost never in base defense. You're going to use a lot of numerous defensive back looks, and you're kind of always a nickel and dime. So the defensive line's really going to have to hold up, because, Sean Payton, he can see weaknesses on defenses all the time. So if they're not tackling and they're letting guys slip off, it could be a long day for them.
Are you more concerned about what their offense might be able to do, or certainly the type of pressure that their defense could put on, because we hadn't talked about, Jake, the offensive ability the Colts showed in week number 1, led by Daniel Jones. I mean, it is good as a game offensively from a quarterback and a team that, we've seen, the comparisons and, the landmarks, the benchmarks, if you will, that they had in that game, scoring on all their possessions. But is there anything that Denver brings to the table that concerns you about this matchup coming up on Sunday with the Colts offense?
Yeah, I would say so. It provides a lot of pressure, and Miami brought a lot of pressure too, and the Colts handled it well. But the Broncos led the league and were leading in sacks for a while last year. They're a very, very aggressive team. And what worked for the Colts offense for a chunk of that game last year was really predicated on Anthony Richardson's ability to get out of the pocket, and they threatened a lot of things with his athleticism. So that kind of worries me a little bit because Daniel Jones can move quite a bit. Don't get me wrong, but he's not a guy that's going to escape every sack. And this is just kind of a different animal with Denver's defensive front. And you've got Pat Surtain, and they've added a couple of versatile defensive backs, over the offseason as well. So that definitely would be my concern, is that they just throw something at the Colts offense that they're just not prepared for. There are a couple areas they can attack them, though. It looks like over the middle of the field, which is not necessarily Daniel Jones' strong suit. That's not an area he really goes for a lot. That's kind of the most vulnerable part of Denver's defense. So that's an area that Anthony Richardson really loved to attack, but not as much Daniel Jones. So he may have to get a little bit out of his element as well. You can kind of send Tyler Warren at the seam or Alec Pierce on a deep post, where Daniel Jones is really comfortable throwing outside when he goes deep. I think he's going to kind of have to try and enforce a little bit inside.
All right. I have Alec Pierce on the show tomorrow. He had 3 targets. A lot of people had questioned how influential he might be in the Colts offense, considering the quarterback, Daniel Jones. He made an outstanding catch for 36 yards. That was it. Do you think that they go to him more, or is this kind of going to be par for the course, you think, with Alec Pierce in this offense in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think that's kind of his role. We haven't seen enough to say that he's going to be a regular contributor, like inside the sticks. And they've already kind of got those bases covered, with Pittman and Downs and Tyler Warren. I think what we saw from Pierce Sunday is probably going to be pretty, a pretty good gauge of what we could expect to see. The key to that is just going to be Daniel Jones' willingness to continually go for him downfield. Which was refreshing to see because, kind of like you mentioned, I think a lot of us were like, okay, well, is Alec going to get kind of phased out of the offense because Jones doesn't push it downfield much? Well, the good news is he does seem to be comfortable looking Pierce's way downfield. He had a couple of downfield looks to him that, when you mentioned on the sideline, was really good.
Yeah.
And the more that a guy like Pierce brings those in, it will allow Jones to trust him a little more. I just think they need to make sure they target him earlier in the game, because even last year, he had a huge year, but it felt like they didn't really get to him until midway through the third or the fourth quarter. So if they kind of try to establish him relatively early, I think it will help make him a little more impactful.
More than half of the targets went, as you mentioned, to Pittman and Warren in their particular direction. And it doesn't stand out so much for me regarding only 3 for Pierce, but it does kind of stand out to me regarding Josh Downs only having 3. Does he become more integral as a part of this offense, you think, in week number 2?
Yeah, I've got to think Downs is really going to have one of those games where he gets 7, 8, 9 catches soon. Like, we just saw too much of it throughout the summer where Jones was locked onto him. I really assumed that Warren and Downs were probably going to get 8 or 9 targets a game. So it's a little too early for me to bail on that. I'm guessing it's just probably more matchup based. This is kind of one of those teams where week to week you never know who's going to be the leader. I do think Tyler Warren is probably going to be the most consistent high volume threat in the passing game. It certainly seems that way just from how they use him. But I've got to think Josh Downs' day is coming soon. I kind of thought it would be last week because he was going up against a 5th-round rookie corner, covering him in the slot. It seemed like a good matchup to kind of exploit. But no, I think his day's coming soon.
Yeah, I felt the same thing. There are two plays going back a year ago, and I know that there's probably not a great deal that's transferable from that December game and that loss, that it just was absolutely brutal, to going into 405 coming up on Sunday afternoon. But there were a couple of plays, obviously the Jonathan Taylor play, and then the ill-fated A.D. Mitchell pass back to Anthony Richardson that will probably live in infamy around here for sure, but really not too transferable, I don't think, to this particular team this year. You agree?
Yeah, no, those things are so fluky and hard to gauge, because I mentioned I was watching that game. I was looking for some smoking gun as to like what really happened, and it was just stupid mistakes. The Colts turned the ball over 5 times, which you're never going to win when you turn over 5 times. 2 of those were Jonathan Taylor's fumble and then A.D. Mitchell's pass to Nick Bonito. And then a team like Denver is just too good, and they're going to capitalize when you make mistakes like that. Like pretty much most of their points in the second half came off of kind of boneheaded Colts plays. And then they had that 61-yard punt return as well. So I think as long as you play responsibly with the ball and you're not turning it over and making these just really boneheaded gaffes, you stand a lot better chance of keeping yourselves in it, because the Colts were in control of that game most of the time until that Taylor play. And it really felt like the defense was the one that would just kind of had the chokehold on Denver's offense and was really making it a bigger challenge than it ultimately ended up being.
Hey, Jake Arthur's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Before I let you go, you mentioned you watched Denver and Tennessee last week, maybe get a little bit of a gauge for week 3, that matchup down in Nashville for the Colts. But did you take in any of Houston and Jacksonville and their week number 1 encounters too?
I didn't get to check them out yet. It's looking pretty promising for the Colts if Houston's going to be playing that way, though. You know, shockingly, their downgrades on the offensive line did not benefit them going forward. So
yeah, no doubt.
The Colts are still in this AFC South race.
Yeah, I for some reason I just keep thinking Jacksonville is going to turn out offensively much better with Cohen as their coach than what we have, just being kind of an inconsistent, most of the time mess.
I agree with that. Like it's really hard for me to totally bail on Trevor Lawrence. Like we've just seen him play some really good ball at times, and he's probably not the Peyton Manning, level prospect that a lot thought, but I think he's still a good quarterback. Brian Thomas Jr. is awesome. We'll see what Travis Hunter winds up being. But no, I think with that coaching staff now, Jacksonville is probably better than they have been.
What'd you think of Cam Ward in his first start?
Tough for him. I mean, I think he played better than the numbers show. He's just got not a lot of help around him. Like they had a bunch of drops, and I mean, a lot of those throws he had were tight window throws that were going to be challenging to come down with anyways, but he just had nobody bailing him out or helping him out downfield whatsoever. Like even some of his best throws, it was doinking off their chest or both hands. And I don't know, it might be a long season for them, because I already wasn't totally sold on their supporting cast. It's just it's a lot of older guys or guys that have underachieved before. And I think he'll play relatively well, but that offensive line's not great. His supporting cast is not great. And so they will probably be at the bottom of the division.
Did you also, like everybody else, compare the week 1 games with both Loveland and Warren, the tight ends, as rookies? Did you do that too?
You got to, right?
Yeah, you do.
I think Chicago probably outsmarted themselves. Like, I get it. Colston, Loveland fit better with what they already have, but it's like, okay, well, Tyler Warren can do a little bit of everything. You can't go wrong getting a guy like Tyler Warren.
Well, Warren is I don't know how to describe at least what you witnessed in that week 1 win over Miami. He was like fluidly violent. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, he is so quick, so fast, but man, he's violent out there in a good way. You know what I mean? Not in a bad way. That's kind of what I think about with him, because he comes at you with ill intentions. and he's going to find you too. And then he catches everything in his zip code, and he's also quick, and he seems just like the next big thing to me at that position. I know it's week number 1, and things could all change, but that's kind of what I thought when watching him at Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday.
No, I agree. I think it was validating of what we kind of already thought and hoped with him. He's just one of those guys that he's just made to play football. You know, he's a smart football player. You know, he has the quarterback background from high school, and he's just he gets it. So that's to me, that's always the biggest thing. Is like, do you understand what's going on out there, even no matter how physically gifted you are? But he's smart and physically capable of doing it all. And he just, at no point has he looked like a rookie. Like, from rookie minicamp, he went out there and dominated everybody. And then when they mixed in with the veterans, he was making plays and standing out. And he catches the ball so seamlessly. Like, I've never seen it look like a challenge for him to catch the ball. He makes plays in traffic. He always has great concentration. Even when he gets lit up, he holds on to the ball, and it doesn't look like it bothers him. Like, everything just looks so natural for him that it's hard for me to imagine him not being an absolute star.
Locked On Colts and the Roundtable Network. He is the beat writer Jake Arthur, and he joins us on this Wednesday on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Broncos Colts, week number 2, and the Colts, outside of the Manning era, have 1-2-0 start. And that's 1996, I believe, is the stat Mike Chappell had. So as underdogs going into the weekend, we'll see what happens at 4:05 coming up on Sunday. Jake, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Jake Arthur on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. We shall take a break. Bullseye passes to give away. Hey, you and I the rest of the way, we can work that at 239-1070 or inside the text line if you want to go there, 317-239-1070. Have some things to read. We'll get to that and then get you set for tomorrow. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. We will be at the Ale Emporium in Fishers, Brent Holverson and I will explain. And then Broncos Colts tickets, hopefully for everybody. Coach's Tavern downtown. That's on Friday, Bud Light Blue Friday, with Broncos Colts tickets for you to win. That opportunity is coming up on Friday. Quick break, we'll come back. Bullseye passes to give, too. One final pair before we hit the top of the hour. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
couldn't possibly be any dumber. You go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
At Jake Arthur Podcast, 1075thefan.com. 50 in betting, 50 in dining. The Harris Hoosier Park race of the day. Hopefully you have your horse ready to go. Somebody is going to win. We'll do that here in the next under 10 minutes. Tomorrow on the road, Ale Emporium Fishers, Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots. Then Friday, Bud Light Blue Friday with Broncos Colts tickets to give away. Yeah, on the road again. Well, downtown, not too far from where I am right now, Coach's Tavern. Coming up on Friday. Me and Tommy S. and our friends from Zinc at Bud Light. Hey, JMV, Chris Hutton from Hartford City here. What is the story on you getting into it with Adam Schefter? I heard you talking about it a couple of years ago, but just caught the end of the segment. I don't know if I have enough time to go into full detail right here, but I tell you what, Chris, remind me to do it. I mean, it was a moment, but also it was years following that particular moment. And truth be told, did I play a jackass role in it? I did. I didn't feel like I was the jackass role instigator, but I probably was a part of it. It's just a really funny story now, I think. Yeah, looking back to 1996, the Colts, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, their first 5 out of 6, I think, in 96, was it? Hey, it's been a while. Yeah, 4-0. I had forgotten even going back then that they had buys. But, yeah, going back, they were 4-0 before the bye week. That's what you passed along to me right there. Looking to start 2-0. And then on the road in Nashville. I know that you start, you want to get selfish after that. So we shall see. JMV. I remember that 96 season. The Colts actually beat New England to get to the postseason, I believe. Well, the 95 season is I always look at the 95 season, the year prior, as kind of fan base realizing what real winning is. And what I mean by that is postseason winning. And it was like a comet. It happened at the tail end of the regular season and then into the postseason. It was like the first real taste. They had made the postseason prior, but surely you know that the success wasn't there. It was a lot of losing. But that was the first time that I think people had been really, truly introduced to what winning really matters in the postseason, and that 95 season. All right, 239-1070 is the number. Kurt's on line 3. Hello, Kurt. How are you? Kurt, welcome to the show. Hi, Kurt. How are you?
Thanks. Good, John. How are you? Hey, listen, back when the Pacers were doing their run, you were on a remote somewhere, and you were talking about your pickup basketball games, and I think I heard you say you wouldn't mind dying on the court. Is that true?
I like playing basketball. I'm going to try to stay away from that. Yeah, I would. I like playing. I like playing basketball a great deal, and I think that is my testimonial to how long I want to play. Yes.
Well, I've been playing. I'm 64. I'll be 65 in November.
Well done out of you, Kurt. I'm proud of you for that. Yes, so I'm going to keep going.
Here's the story, John, real quick. Yeah. I had a heart attack in February.
Oh.
2 of my basketball guys knew AED. They kept me alive till the Carmel police officer got me, and then he was pumping on me until the paramedics came. So I just thought I'd share with you the fact that, yes, people can have a heart attack at 64, and survive and still playing. In fact, I'll be playing tonight at Elizabeth Seton.
Man,
so
Kurt,
shout out to my Seton guys.
Kurt, I am so happy for you for a variety of reasons. I
figured you might be happy.
Hopefully when I say, I had said this before, and I haven't in a while, I said, man, I hope they have the paddles around here because I may need them. Hopefully that doesn't that doesn't make you mad at me saying it.
No. And the fact is that when they dropped those AEDs in there at the gym, I've been there for 20 years. I'm like, what's this thing? And I open up the door, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, wow, that thing's pretty simple. Who knew? Years later, it saved my life. So
you were actually, Kurt, you were playing at the time.
Yeah. Wow. We finished the first game. We started the second game. I was told I went up and down the court once, and I said, hold on, guys. And I reached down, and then I just flapped over. And a couple guys thought I was having a seizure. Like I said, 2 guys knew AED and teached it, Patrick and Lance. Those 2 guys kept me alive till Officer Sweat with Carmel came.
Wow.
And then, everything was just falling into place. So when I heard you say that months ago, I just hey, when I've got time, I'm going to give John a call and share the story. So kudos to my Elizabeth Seton basketball.
So, let's give some props. You said Officer Sweat, correct? Carmel?
Yep, with Carmel.
And Patrick and
Lance.
And Lance.
Elizabeth Seton in Carmel. 106 and average stick. I'll be playing tonight.
Kurt, that is what I like to call, and believe me, I think everybody needs it, an incredible happy ending right there. That's well done.
Yeah.
Hey, keep us updated on your playing. What are you, 64, did you say? 64 years of age?
Yeah, I'll be 65 in November. No aches and pains. I don't take any Tylenol before or after. I do a lot of stretching. Massage gun's key. So there you go, John.
Hey, Kurt, I got to learn from you. I like pound anti-inflammatories, and I don't stretch at all.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not the oldest guy. Shout out to Bob Miners here in Carmel, who has got me by a couple of months. So there must be something in the water, John.
Well, I'm going to go play tonight myself, too, at Greenwood Christian. A little bit later. I played last night until 11 o'clock, and I'm a little bit sore. I'm gonna tell you what. I am going to stretch like I've never stretched before in your honor tonight, Kurt.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I got a massage gun for Christmas last year, and it's a poor man's massage. It's a great little tip for those basketball guys out there.
I've got a little soreness in my right Achilles right now that pops up whenever I play, and then if I stop playing, it'll go away. But
plantar fasciitis.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go back to back. Listen, Kurt, thank you for calling and sharing that.
You got it.
That's
you got it, dude.
Great news. Please, if I'm ever around, join us so we can have a conversation about that on the air. I am so happy for you, Kurt. Seriously.
If I am in the neighborhood next time you do a remote, I'll track you down.
Kurt, thank you for sharing that great story.
You got it, John. Thanks.
That is Kurt at 64. And what he just said, me being so, I guess, for lack of a better description, cavalier about that when I say it, and I mean, you know me, sometimes I'm going to say some things that can be described only as jackass worthy. That may be one. Maybe you think it's pretty innocent. I felt at the time and still feel it's pretty innocent. But man, is that the type of story that and we need to hear? That's great. A heart attack on the floor. And Patrick and Lance, and a shout out to Officer Sweat of Carmel PD. And Kurt's playing later on tonight. Man, that is a great story right there. Great story. Hey, if you're on hold, I'll get back to you coming up on the other side as well. Stay right there. We'll have some time next. We've got 50 in betting, 50 in dining. Harrah's Hoosier Park Racing and Casino at Anderson. Racing going on now through November. Shout out to Tony Rins. Somebody's going to win. The horses are ready. And here it is, your Harrah's Hoosier Park Race of the Day.
with JMV.
Just an average guy with exceptional hair.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It is Derek White, friend of the show, the winner of the Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day. Ms. Captain Cruz paid $2.10, $2 bet, $2 exact to $6.80, 50-cent trifecta, $9.15. 50 in betting, 50 in dining to a good dude. Good dudes. A winner on a Wednesday. Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day. 50 betting, 50 in dining. We do it Tuesday through Friday right here in the 5 o'clock hour. You can find on my X handle your horse, pick the horse, and you could win the Harris Hoosier Park Race of the Day, where horse racing continues now through November. Harris Hoosier Park Racing and Casino. That is in Anderson. Win Schuler's Spreadability is back for the 2025 football season with us. And a shout out to President Bob of Win Schuler's. Win Schuler's has the very best in spreadability, from regular cheddar to sharp cheddar, cheddar and bacon, and jalapeno pepper. Oh, the spreadability. Make sure you check out your favorite grocer's refrigerator and see if they haven't asked for it to demand the spreadability. And if you see it, make sure you capture that in a photograph and send it to us so we can get people to locate, just like you, the spreadability. Win Schuler's Spreadability, back for your football season here in 2025. 239-1070 is that number. Kenny is on line 3 up next here on the show. Hello, Kenny.
How you doing, brother?
Kenny, great. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm the one that sent you the stats on the Colts '96 season.
Yes, Kenny.
That was actually 95. They beat New England.
Yes.
To get into the playoffs. It was I
knew
believe the score was 9
to
7.
It was a late season win that got them in, and boom. That's kind of when we first realized what winning really truly was about at that level. Then.
Yeah, we actually had a halfway decent quarterback in Harbaugh, and we were doing some good things, man. Hey, I wanted to tell you, your hair is looking smooth, bro. So
thanks, man. Somebody says it looked like a boom went off in my face or something like that. But yeah, it was the advice of the girl said, you got to do something different with that hair. And I go, okay, I'm going to do something different and make my face look longer, thus maybe make me look like I'm even skinnier. So what the hell? That's what I did. Yes.
It's working, dude. Just keep up the good work, man.
Kenny, I appreciate it. Thank you for the heads up, bud.
All right, brother.
Billy's on line 2 at 239-1070. Bill, welcome to the show.
JMV, how you doing today? I wanted to talk a little bit of baseball and everything, but I will make one prediction that at some time this year, Tyler Warren will throw a pass in the NFL.
True that. You can bet. I think that is a sure bet right there, Billy.
I think he's gonna actually do it. Another prediction is I think the World Series this year is going to be Boston and the Dodgers. Boston has just a phenomenal bullpen, and they play the Yankees this weekend. But I want to talk about Kyle Schwarber,
yes.
Indiana University graduate, and the run that he's having, 50 home runs with the remainder of the season in front of him to get to the magic number of 60. He's playing. The Phillies are playing Kansas City. And then they play the Diamondbacks. Those are two teams that don't have any really thing to play for, and are probably going to be playing a lot of players that they're interested in seeing play. And Schwarber is just – I think he's going to get to 60. He's just a home run machine, and he is the only – now, he hit 4 home runs in one game, I think, back in August. And there's only been 136 players in the history of modern baseball that have hit 4 homers in one game. But the other impressive stat from him is he's the only player that has hit a home run in the Little League World Series, the College World Series, the World Champion or World Baseball Classic, and then also when the Phillies were in the World Series before. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch him. And I remember, as you probably do, about how exciting it was down the stretch and everything when Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were pounding home runs, and I think it's going to be the same.
Schwarber is one of the really nice dudes, too. I remember when he was at IU, and I had him on this show, he actually called my cell phone while I was at home, and we had he was between Cincinnati and Bloomington on State Road 50. And if you've ever been on 50, that's like a roller coaster. And we were talking about US 50 and all my trips to Kings Island with him when he called in. And we were just kind of talking on my cell phone. It wasn't even being taped. But he is – I love to see good things happen to good people, and he's certainly good people.
It's good. Yeah, and he's a Middletown, Ohio guy. But, interesting to see how he ends up this season. And I don't know if you saw the clip of the lady that got a foul ball in Philadelphia, and then some guy came over and ripped it out of her hands and gave it to his son, and then she came up to him and got the ball back, and she ended up getting fired from her job because of the social media. And
I did see. Hey, I got to run here, Billy, but I'll see you tomorrow and then on Friday, right?
You betcha.
You got it, buddy. Can't wait. And, I did see that. That was in Miami, I believe. Phillies fans in Miami for that one right there. Hey, tomorrow, the Ale Emporium, we're going to be in Fishers for Larceny Bourbon Locks and Luna Azul Tequila Shots. Can't wait to see you there. Me and Brent Holverson. Alec Pierce is on the show tomorrow. Mike Chappell is on the show tomorrow. And hopefully you, and you know me, that is up right next to, across the parking lot from James, one of the greatest Goodwill locations ever. So I will be rolling early for that coming up tomorrow. I can't wait to see you there. I absolutely love the Ale Emporium. So you want to go with the Hermanakis, and we shall see if maybe we can get a load of the Tatanakis while we're there coming up tomorrow. Ale Emporium. Larceny Bourbon Locks, Luna Azul Tequila Shots for week number 2. Cody, squeeze in here really quick. How are you, Cody?
Cody dropped right when you
Cody, Fulton, I've got 10 seconds, Fulton, your best
John,
material.
How are you, man?
Good, buddy. Go ahead.
Well, we won a back-to-back softball champions.
Well, I knew you would.
Yep, I was wondering if I can get a picture of you when I come to our Emporium tomorrow.
Oh, you're coming to the Ale tomorrow, Fulton?
I might come.
All right, buddy. We'll be looking for you. Thanks, Fulton.
Sounds good.
Congratulations to Fulton. Fulton is the friend of the show. Man, he just roar, comes right at you.
He was ready to go.
I like it. Jake Arthur, Kevin Bowen, Jeff Rabjohns, and Pat Boylan all on the show today. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Thank you all for joining us. I want to see everybody tomorrow. Ale Emporium, Larceny Bourbon Locks, and Luna Azul Tequila Shots with Brent Holverson, Mike Chappell, Colts wide receiver Alec Pierce tomorrow as well. The show begins at 3. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Have a great night.